I was 26, broke, and pushing my boy's stroller through a Minneapolis wind that burned through my coat. The wheels kept jamming on the ice. I kept kicking them straight. Charlie had both hands buried in the sleeves of my coat, his little red cheeks pressed into my chest like he could hide from the cold. He was a year and a half, hungry, half asleep. I had 11 crumpled bucks and maybe $1 in coins bouncing in my pocket. Mrs. Taylor had tossed us out around 3, stood in her pink bathrobe, cigarette hanging off her lip, and said, "Short a month again. You're out, kid." Then she laughed like it was funny, claimed she was selling the building, said something about developers. I barely heard her. I was busy grabbing diapers and shoes with one hand while she held the door open with her foot and told me to hurry it up. It was Christmas Eve. Nobody was picking up phones. I called every shelter I knew. All full. One lady actually said, "Try again after the holidays." Quick note before we jump in. Drop a comment with the city or country you're listening from. It helps us see where everyone's tuning in and plan the best time for new stories. Thanks for watching Revenge by Frank. All right, let's get started. The stroller hit a patch of slush and tipped halfway. I caught it with my knee before Charlie could fall, then righted it and kept moving. My arms were shaking. I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning, since the warehouse let me go. Seasonal downturn, they said. Like clockwork. They handed me a box with my name sharpied on the side and said, "Sorry, man." No severance, nothing. We stopped outside a gas station on Hennepin. I dug for coins to get a cup of coffee, dropped 2 quarters and a nickel near the curb. I stepped off the edge to pick them up, just 1 foot, barely a second. That's when I heard tires scream. A black Range Rover slid across the icy intersection, fishtailing fast, headed straight for me. I yanked the stroller back, slipped, landed hard on my elbow, and the SUV stopped, no joke, less than a foot from my knees. My breath caught like a punch to the chest. The driver door flew open. A guy in a suit, young, maybe my age, jumped out, cussing under his breath. "Hey, are you okay? I didn't see you, the roads—" He cut himself off when he saw Charlie crying. Behind him, a woman slid out of the passenger side. Same face as him, just sharper. Black coat, long braid. Her eyes locked on my kid immediately. "He's freezing," she said. I stood up and grabbed the stroller handles, breathing hard. "We're fine. It didn't hit us." The guy pulled out his wallet. "Here, there's a motel 2 blocks down. Take this." He held out a $100 bill. I looked at it, then at him. "We don't need a handout." The woman stepped forward, calm voice but steel underneath. "He needs a job, not a handout." I stared at her, then her brother. The 100 still hovered in the air like bait. I didn't take it. "You working?" she asked. "Warehouse let me go yesterday." "You ever cleaned offices?" I nodded. "I've done everything." She tilted her head. "We have a staff room. It's warm. Has a cot. It's not much, but you can crash there while we figure something out." "What's the catch?" "No catch. My name's Kelly Allen. That's my brother Oscar. We run Allen Development. Come by now and you can work tonight. Night porter. Paid shift." Oscar finally put the 100 away. "We're late to dinner," he muttered. Kelly didn't move. She looked me square in the eye. "You show up and show up right. I'll make sure you've got a shot." I hesitated. My kid was shivering. My hands were numb. I said, "Fine. Tell me where to go." She didn't smile. She just turned, nodded once, and said, "Follow me." So I did. Stroller wheels crunching over the snow, my son crying, my jaw locked so tight it hurt. I followed her through the dark streets, straight into something I didn't see coming. Kelly didn't talk much as we walked, just pointed once at the security desk and said, "That's Reggie. He'll get you squared away." The place felt like a bank built for ghosts. Tall ceilings, polished marble, soft lights glowing over empty chairs. Even the air smelled rich. Not flowers, not food. Just clean, like nothing ever touched it. We stepped into an office on the 2nd floor, where Oscar sat behind a desk. still in his coat, fingers flying over his phone. He didn't look up when we walked in. Just said, $90 a night at the Midtown Motel. This is 2 nights plus food. Comes out of your first check. Then he pulled a wad from his wallet and slid one bill after another across the glass. 10s, 20s, 50s, until it hit 180 even. I didn't move. Kelly looked at me. Take it, you'll need diapers. So I picked it up. Felt heavier than it should have. Real money always does. Oscar finally looked up, eyes bloodshot. You'll get a badge and locker. Reggie will log you. Paperwork's handled for tonight. You're not an employee until HR clears you. Kelly's making a temporary call. You do what she says. Kelly didn't blink. 1 week trial, night shift, 10 to 6. You mop, clean glass, take out trash. You do what you're asked, when it's asked. You don't miss a minute. I won't. You don't bring anyone into this building except that boy. He doesn't leave the staff room during your shift. I nodded again. He won't. Kelly tapped her knuckle on the desk once, sharp. All right, let's show you your castle. She led me down a back hall, past the freight elevator and loading dock, to a door that looked like a janitor's closet. Inside was a narrow room barely bigger than a bathroom. One metal cot with a wool blanket, a heater that clicked and rattled like it had a mouse in it, a small locker, and a sink with a rust ring in the bowl. I didn't care. I pulled off my coat, laid it down over the cot, and set Charlie on it like he was glass. He didn't even wake up. His little hand reached out for my shirt and stayed there, even asleep. Reggie knocked once and came in. Tall guy with tired eyes and a badge clipped to his fleece. Made you this, he said, handing me a plastic card. My name was printed under the company logo. He also handed me a sandwich wrapped in plastic. Turkey, cafeteria fridge. You'll want that around 2 a.m., trust me. I couldn't tell if he was just being nice or if he'd done this before. Maybe both. HR showed up 20 minutes later, a woman with a clipboard and the kind of voice that never cracked. She didn't even look at Charlie. Just said, "This isn't a precedent. It's a 1-week authorization. Your son stays here, door locked, monitor on your belt. No exceptions." Understood. Kelly signs the renewal every Monday or it ends. You miss a shift, it ends. You bring someone in, it ends. This stays between us. Agreed. Agreed. She didn't smile. Just handed me a sheet with my name and the rules printed in bold. Then she turned and walked out without another word. Facilities sent over a safety memo, already signed. Said I had secured access to the staff room, baby monitor checked, emergency contacts logged. I didn't know what EHS meant, but I figured it was the people who made sure no kid got hurt on company property. At 11:30, I finally texted Ma. We're safe. Got a room. Got work tonight. She replied fast. Watch out. That girl Lily will call the moment she smells money. I didn't respond. Just looked at Charlie, and then tucked my coat tighter around him. The heater buzzed, but it didn't do much. I wrapped my scarf around the cot frame to block the draft under the door. By midnight, I was pushing a cart down the south wing. The building was dead silent except for the echo of my steps and the clatter of spray bottles in the tray. I hadn't done this kind of work since high school, but my body remembered. Back and forth with the mop. Wipe the mirrors. Dump the bins. Rinse the floor sinks. I didn't think. I just moved. 12:15, Kelly came back. She wasn't dressed down, still had the same blazer and boots. She didn't say anything at first, just stepped into the staff room and came out with something in her hands. A soft, folded blanket with cartoon trucks on it. I keep a stash in my office, she said, for vendor kids when they drop in and nap under the table. I took it. Thank you. She looked at me hard, not judging, just checking to see if I was still standing. You holding up? I'm not quitting. Didn't ask if you were, just checking. Then she nodded once and walked away, heels tapping. Around 2 in the morning, I saw Oscar again. He was with a contractor in the basement garage, looking over blueprints. I caught half a sentence as he walked by. I don't even know if I'm doing any of this right. He didn't see me. At 3:10, I was back in the staff room, crouched beside the cot, hand on Charlie's back. He stirred but didn't cry. I whispered to him, "I'm stacking every shift they give me, buddy. I swear it." He didn't understand the words, but he quieted, like he knew it was a promise. By 6 in the morning, I had 3 floors cleaned so well you could see your reflection in the tile. My back screamed, but I didn't care. I met Kelly at the main desk. She handed me a short paper, stapled once in the corner. Tonight, 10 to 6, official shift. 2-week probation starts now. I took it, folded it in half, and put it in my back pocket. I still had her blanket in my other hand. 2 weeks in, the noise came in heels. Polina Zaharova walked into Allen Development as if the place bent around her, slick hair tucked behind her ears, red heels with scuffs like war wounds, a tight, practiced smile. First day, she spun in a chair at the procurement desk and said, "Seriously? Trailer Danny?" Like I was still 16 and still wearing jeans too short for my legs. I didn't answer, just took the trash and walked out. Later that night, Oscar mentioned her name during a conversation near the freight elevator. Polina came recommended by Vlad Uvarov, Dad's old partner, said she could clean up procurement. I was wiping a doorframe nearby. Kelly didn't say a word, but I saw her jaw tighten and her hand stop moving over the folder she'd been flipping through. Polina wasn't quiet. She made herself known quick. First shift, she tossed a half-full coffee cup into my bucket while I was mopping the west stairwell. Didn't even look at me when she said, "Careful, maintenance. You missed a spot." I wanted to say something. My tongue burned for it, but I didn't. I just stared her down, turned the mop, and kept working. She spent most of her hours close to Oscar, leaned in when she talked, brushed her hand on his arm, laughed at things that weren't funny. I caught one of the project managers muttering to another near the vending machines. "She's in every single meeting now. Kelly's not going to love that." Kelly didn't show it, though. She stayed locked on her work. I watched her go line by line through supply reports, head barely moving, red pen tapping the margin every time she spotted something off. One night, I passed her glass-walled office while buffing tile, and I saw her scrolling through a vendor list. She stopped at one with some generic name, RMB Logistics or something, and I saw her underline it 3 times. She didn't say a word. Polina kept strutting through like she'd been born there. Her badge clipped to the tightest part of her blouse, voice all honey when she was asking for coffee from admin, but cold steel when she spoke Russian into her phone by the elevators. I didn't understand the words, but I didn't need to. The tone said everything, sharp, clipped, impatient. That was around 11 in the evening. I was running the floor polisher over the marble near reception. I slowed the machine just enough to listen. She ended the call, turned around, and saw me standing there. "You need something?" she asked. "Nope." She gave me a look like I'd tracked in mud, then walked off toward the boardroom. Half an hour later, I was warming a bottle in the staff room sink when Kelly stepped in. "Don't let her get in your head," she said. No small talk, just that. Like she already knew I'd seen too much. "I'm not. Just doing my job." She reached up to tighten her ponytail, eyes on mine. "Keep doing it. Ignore the noise. Stay low, and keep your clearance clean." "Yes, ma'am." She glanced over at the baby monitor on my belt, blinking soft green. Then she nodded and walked out. But I didn't forget what I'd seen. I didn't forget anything. It wasn't just the way Polina acted like she owned the building. It was the shipments. Boxes from her approved vendors were light. Too light for the invoices they were tagged with. I'd handled freight at the warehouse for over a year. I knew when a box said it held 30 pounds but felt more like 12. She'd flash that red lipstick smile and sign off on everything with a scribble. Nobody questioned it. Oscar even praised her during a team huddle. "We're cutting procurement costs thanks to Polina's cleanup work. Nice job." Kelly clapped too, but her face said otherwise. A few nights later, I ran into Reggie outside the break room. He leaned against the soda machine and took a slow sip of coffee. "She's not just a pretty face," I said. "Something's off." He gave me a look, then checked the hallway before speaking. "Vlad's old school, doesn't like the new guard, still calls Oscar the kid. Word is, Vlad's not over getting pushed off the board. So he sent her?" Reggie didn't answer, just said, "Watch your corners, man. That's all I'll say." I went home that morning and dug out one of the small notebooks I'd kept from the warehouse. Started jotting down everything: date, time, shipment, location, how much the boxes weighed versus what the invoice claimed. I didn't tell anybody. Didn't even tell Kelly. It was habit. Warehouse trained it into me. You keep records, you cover your ass. One night, I passed Polina in the hallway. She was coming out of Oscar's office, adjusting her blouse like she'd been fixing it a little too late. She smiled when she saw me, then stopped and said, "It's cute, how you act like you belong here." I looked her dead in the eye. "I mop up what people leave behind. You'd be surprised what that teaches you." She blinked, then smirked and walked off without a word. That's when I knew. She thought I was just a floor boy. Polina thought I wasn't watching, and maybe for a minute I wasn't. But the building was starting to talk in its own quiet ways. You learn things when you clean up after everyone. Who stays late, who never puts their dishes in the sink, who throws vendor invoices into the shred bin without even opening them. Over the next couple weeks, my focus shifted. I was still mopping, still hauling bins, still changing soap cartridges in executive restrooms, but my eyes were open wider. That's when the envelope showed up. Ma forwarded it from her address, Mrs. Taylor's thick handwriting in red Sharpie on the front. Inside was a final balance statement for $742, printed on some cheap invoice template. Below it, in pen, she'd written, "I'll file if you dodge." I stood in the janitor closet holding the letter while the mop water heated. Charlie was napping in the staff room 2 doors down. I hadn't thought about that building in days, but suddenly it was back in my throat, thick and bitter. I brought the letter to payroll. The clerk, a kid in his early 20s with an Allen fleece and Bluetooth in his ear, looked at it, then tapped at his keyboard. "I can split a deduction. Lowest I can go is $35 a check, twice a month. Want to do that?" I nodded. "Do it. Comes out pre-tax. You'll feel it." "I'm already feeling it." He shrugged. "All right. It's in." That night I skipped the cafeteria. Turkey sandwich or not, I couldn't afford to need lunch and gas at the same time. Next blow came from facilities. I ordered replacement mop heads, standard restock, nothing extra, and got a denial from the admin panel. The reason code said belt tightening. I brought it up to Kelly while she was reviewing floor inspection reports. "I guess the mop heads got flagged," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. She didn't look up. "The CFO's cracking down. Wants numbers prettier by quarter's end." I watched her raise one eyebrow slightly, just enough to tell me she didn't like it either. "You need them?" "Yes." She clicked a few keys. "Resubmit with the cost line split across departments. Sanitation and maintenance. I'll cover it under facilities overhead." "Appreciate it." Her tone stayed dry. "Don't thank me. Just don't let anyone slip on a wet floor." Reggie caught me later near the loading bay. He was eating trail mix out of a bag like it was popcorn. "You still got your boy here at night?" he asked, casual. "Yeah, staff room, same as always." He shifted his weight. "Keep it tight. Sometimes CPS pokes around on complaints, especially if someone makes noise." "Complaints from who?" He didn't say it. He didn't need to. That night I packed Charlie a small emergency bag. Diapers, formula, second set of clothes, a prepaid phone with 2 numbers programmed, mine and Ma's. I stashed it under the cot, just in case. A couple mornings later, Kelly caught me at 6:50 in the morning, right as I was about to clock out. She waved me into a conference room and shut the door behind us. On the table was a folded brochure, bright orange header, bold font, custodial lead certification, 8-hour course, weekend session. She didn't sit, just crossed her arms and said, "Take this." I flipped it open. The cost was $165. "I can't afford it," I said. "I know, it's on me. Take the course, get the cert, pay it forward later. Price of help." I didn't say anything for a second. Then I nodded once and picked it up. I hated needing help, but I hated standing still more. Looking back, it was the only smart decision I made that month. Later that same day, I checked my phone while warming up formula. Lily had messaged me on WhatsApp. 4 beach photos, her in a bikini, sand everywhere, cocktails, fake eyelashes, tan skin. Then came the text, "Miss my boys, trying to come back, need $260 for a visa thing. Can you help?" I stared at the screen for maybe 5 minutes, typed out no, erased it. Typed, "You gotta be kidding," erased that too. Finally I wrote, "Can't. Charlie needs it. Be well." Then I turned off read receipts. That night, Polina left with Oscar in a black car service around 10:15. I was buffing tile outside the executive wing and saw them step into the elevator together. Her hand touched his lower back before the doors closed. I didn't say a word. I just kept buffing. Next morning, the building buzzed with it. Admins whispered by the copier. A junior architect made a joke about career fast tracks by the vending machines. I kept wiping. Around lunchtime, I went to drop off a package by receiving. There was a bulletin board over the desk, old company memos, vendor flyers, stale reminders about flu shots and volunteer drives. Pinned under a thumbtack was a yellowed sheet with the title, "Neighborhood Buyouts, Phase 1. Looked like a leftover from some internal meeting. I scanned the list and froze when I saw it. My old address, 2337 Girard Avenue, was halfway down the page. I blinked. Read it again. Didn't register the connection right away, not fully. But my gut clenched. Something felt wrong. I snapped a photo and kept moving. That night the snow came in fast, thick, sticky. By 11:30 it was piling up against the loading dock ramp like a white wall. The plows hadn't touched it yet. I stood at the top, hands in my jacket, watching it build. That garage had blind spots. I knew every inch of it by then. I thought to myself, if anything goes wrong down there, nobody sees it till morning. Then I turned and got back to work. That same night, I was buffing the reception floor at 10:58 in the evening, just like any other graveyard shift. The buffer's low hum filled the lobby, steady and dull. Charlie was in the staff room, asleep under the cartoon blanket Kelly had brought me weeks ago. The baby monitor blinked green on my pocket, soft and steady. His breathing was all I needed to hear. Outside, snow pressed against the revolving doors like it wanted in. Inside, it was warm and quiet, almost peaceful. Almost. Polina sat behind the receptionist's desk like it was hers. Her heels were off, feet curled under her, expensive black stockings stretched over the arm of the chair. She had her phone out on speaker, screen face down, voice low but not whispering. I almost missed the first line over the buffer. Then I heard the man's voice. Tomorrow, 7:20 in the morning, underground garage. He parks in spot B12. Same every day. I felt the blood drain from my arms. Polina's voice followed, calm like she was confirming a dinner reservation. Yes, Vlad. He signed the limited power of attorney for vendor settlements. He didn't even read it. I'll get him outside the city by 8. My hand slipped on the buffer handle. It jerked left, and I killed the motor. Silence came down like a curtain. I stood frozen, heart pounding. She didn't hear me. Or maybe she thought I wasn't listening. The man's voice came again, dry and sharp. With him sidelined, settlements move without his second signature. No pushback. Polina sighed like it was all going to plan. Perfect. Then came the one that stopped time. Brake line looks clean when it fails, the man said. No drama, just a slide. Polina laughed, soft, familiar, like a girl flirting at a bar. Then she said, "After, you wire my share. I'm gone." Cabo. I took one step back, slow, heel not making a sound on the tile. My palms were slick, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. This wasn't rumors, wasn't whispers. This was real, planned, close. Tomorrow. I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers and called Oscar. Voicemail. I hung up and called again. Voicemail again. I fired off a text. "Do not drive your car tomorrow. Important. Please trust me." No dots. No read receipt. Nothing. I moved fast, cutting through the east hallway to Kelly's office. I knocked once, hard. No answer. I tried the handle. Locked. Her light was off, desk dark. She'd left at 9. First night in weeks, she left early. I stood there for half a second, then spun and booked it back down to the first floor. Reggie was posted up in security, feet up, sipping from his thermos. "I need you," I said, voice tight. "Right now." He put the thermos down. "What's going on?" "I heard something. Polina. Phone call. A guy named Vlad. She said Oscar's brake line's getting cut before tomorrow morning. 7:20. Spot B12. Reggie sat up straight. "You sure about what you heard?" She said she already got him to sign a power of attorney. Said after the slide, she's gone. Cabo. Reggie cursed under his breath and grabbed his walkie. "I'll check cameras. You sure about the time?" "Positive." He looked at me for a second like he was trying to read the truth off my face. Then he nodded once. "Meet me in the garage at 6:30 in the morning sharp." I pulled out my phone again, typed it out in text. 6:30 sharp. Garage. Sent it to Reggie. No confusion. No wiggle room. Then I went back upstairs, legs like wood, and sat on the cold tile next to the cot where my son slept. I watched him breathe, slow and steady, fingers twitching in his sleep like he was chasing something gentle. I didn't pray often. I barely remembered how. But that night I stared at the ceiling and whispered, "Let me see morning. Just morning." After that, I'll deal. The baby monitor chirped once, then settled. The hallway lights dimmed to night mode. Every creak of the pipes made my skin jump. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My foot tapped the floor. My stomach sat like a fist of cold dough in my gut. I kept picturing Oscar, coffee in hand, key in the ignition, rolling straight into a setup. Somewhere in the back of my head, I kept hearing that line over and over again. Brake line looks clean when it fails. No drama. Just a slide. I pictured Kelly finding out after the fact. I pictured Charlie asking where I'd gone if something happened to me too. Around 4 a.m., I stood up and checked the door again. Still locked. Still quiet. I thought about the buyout list, my old address, Vlad's name tied to everything. It all sat like bad meat in my brain. Spoiled, heavy, starting to stink. By 5, the snow outside had stopped, but the wind was still moving it around in thick gusts. The windows in the garage stairwell were iced at the corners. I kept checking the clock. 5:52, 6:12, 6:29. Then I stood up, kissed my boy's forehead, and stepped out into the cold gray light of what was already the longest morning of my life. Thursday, 6:35 in the morning, I was in the underground garage. My breath came out in clouds as I walked between rows of luxury sedans and shiny SUVs. The concrete floor held the cold like a vault. I had eyes on spot B12 the second I stepped off the elevator. That's where Oscar always parked. That's where the voice on the phone had said it would happen. I spotted it. His Range Rover. Black, spotless, angled in like it had been parked by a machine. But underneath it was a puddle, dark and wet, maybe the size of a basketball. At first glance, it looked like oil. I moved closer. Then I smelled it. Not grease, not gas. Sweet and sharp, like chemicals from a cracked radiator. But this was thinner. I crouched down and dipped the corner of a rag into it, rubbed my fingers together. Brake fluid. I kid you not. My stomach flipped like it was trying to crawl back up my throat. I stood up fast and looked around. Reggie was jogging across the garage from the stairwell, flashlight bobbing in his hand. "You see it?" I called. "Yeah, don't touch anything else." He dropped to one knee, shined the light under the front wheel, and angled it along the caliper. We both leaned in. There it was, a small, clean slice through the brake line. Not a fray, not a crack, a cut, precise. Reggie sat back on his heels. "That's surgical. What now? We need to lock this down. Now." He keyed his radio. "Control, this is Reggie. Lock the garage ramp. Get gates down ASAP." "Copy that," came the reply. "Closing in progress." We both stood, staring at the Range Rover like it might bite. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't check it. Every part of me was wired tight. That's when the gate motor whined in the distance. It had just started closing when headlights swept around the turn near the entrance ramp. Oscar's SUV. I cursed and took off running. He rolled in slower than usual, but still fast enough to beat the gate before it fully dropped. He held a to-go coffee in one hand and had a phone in the other, talking into his Bluetooth. Security paused the gate to let him through. As soon as he cleared the threshold, the system locked again. Metal slammed down behind him. He didn't even park. He was about to shift into drive and circle to his usual spot when I stepped in front of the car and slapped the hood hard enough to make the glass shake. "Stop!" He slammed on the brake and jumped out, face twisted in confusion and anger. "What are you doing?" I stepped back just enough to point. "Don't move the car." "What?" He looked down at the pavement, then up at me like I was speaking another language. "What are you talking about?" Footsteps hit the stairwell. Kelly strode out, ponytail tight, coat flapping behind her. Her eyes locked on the puddle under his car, then flicked up to my face. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Don't move the car," she said, sharp and cold. It cut through the noise like a blade. Oscar froze. Reggie stepped in next. "There's a brake fluid leak. Line's cut." Oscar looked from Reggie to me, and then crouched fast to see it himself. He didn't touch it. He just stared. The color drained from his face. His jaw clenched. Kelly was already pulling out her phone. "Call Minneapolis PD, now." Reggie nodded and stepped to the side, barking into his radio. Oscar stood slowly, holding his coffee like it might shatter. "Are you telling me someone tried to—" "Yes," I said. "And they knew where you'd be. What time? What car?" His eyes flicked to Kelly's. "You believe this?" She didn't answer, just looked at him like she already knew the answer and hated that he didn't. Oscar looked at the Range Rover again. Man. Sirens echoed faintly outside. Reggie waved over another guard and ordered them to start pulling last night's security footage. I just stood there, hands shaking, heart pounding like a drum in my throat. My baby's monitor blinked green in my pocket, steady and soft. He was safe. For now. Oscar turned to me, his voice raw. "How'd you know?" "I heard her," I said. "Polina, last night. She was on speaker with Vlad. She said it would happen this morning. Said you'd be gone by 8. He swayed slightly like he'd just taken a hit to the chest. Kelly took a step forward but didn't touch him. "Who else knows?" she asked. "Just us. For now." Cops rolled in around 7:10. They sealed off the garage, took photos, bagged the rag, logged everything. I gave a full statement, then watched Oscar give his. He kept rubbing the back of his neck like the tension wouldn't let go. Kelly never left the garage. Not once. She stood near the Range Rover with her arms crossed and eyes locked on the pool under the tire like it had personally betrayed her. The last thing I remember clearly from that hour was Oscar turning to me and saying, "You saved my life." Then he looked down, shook his head once, and walked off without waiting for a reply. I stayed there in the cold, my breath fogging the air, my palms still raw from the slap I'd put on the hood. My legs felt like jelly. My stomach wouldn't settle. I kept thinking how close it came, how 1 minute of bad timing could have changed everything. That morning, the janitor stopped the slide. But by noon, the janitor was the one getting pushed. I barely had time to wash the brake fluid from my hands before the whole building went tense and loud at once. Word traveled fast. Too fast. People whispered down hallways, peeking around corners like a crime scene was taped off in the lobby. I could feel it before I even saw her. Polina was waiting near the reception desk, eyes already wet, makeup smudged like she'd been crying for hours. It was an act so good it made my stomach turn. The moment she saw Oscar walk out of the service elevator, she rushed toward him and grabbed his sleeve. "I'm so scared," she said, voice shaking like a leaf. "I told you he had access to everything. I warned you. A guy desperate for a raise could stage a crisis. It happens all the time." Oscar stiffened, eyes darting between her and me. I walked up slowly, watching her crocodile tears drip onto the marble. "That's a lie," I said. "You know it." She took a shaky breath and backed away like I might lunge at her. "Oscar, please. He's been angry. He's been watching me and I didn't feel safe." Kelly appeared from around the corner, boots sharp on the floor. She took one look at Polina, then one long look at Oscar. "Don't tell me you're buying this," she said quietly. Oscar exhaled, rubbed his forehead, and looked down at the ground like he wanted to disappear inside it. "Legal flagged it," he said. "They said letting him stay here without suspending him is a risk. If this goes sideways, I'm responsible." Kelly stared at him like he'd sprouted horns. "You're suspending the person who saved your life." Oscar didn't meet her eyes. "Just until we sort it out. It's not permanent." I felt the floor drop under me. My pulse hammered. My hands curled in tight fists. "What did I do wrong?" I asked. Oscar swallowed. "It's protocol, Daniel." "Protocol?" I said. "Protocol didn't stop the brake line from getting cut. Protocol didn't catch your signature being used for a scam. Protocol didn't save your life. I did." He opened his mouth, closed it again. Kelly stepped closer. "This is insane." Oscar finally looked at me, and I could see fear in his face. Fear of making another mistake. Fear of the board. Fear of headlines. Fear of being the guy who ignored warnings twice. "I'm sorry," he said. "HR will take it from here." HR didn't waste a second. A woman with tight curls and colder eyes than the garage air handed me a cardboard box like she was giving out charity. "Pack your things. Temporary suspension pending investigation. Effective immediately." I put my mop in it. The same mop I'd used the night I saved his car. It felt ridiculous and small, like a prop in a bad play. My throat burned, but I kept my face steady. Reggie came up from behind the desk, face pulled tight. He squeezed my shoulder and leaned in. "Hold tight. I'm pulling the garage footage. All angles. She's not getting away with this." "Thanks," I said, voice low. Polina walked past with her phone out, snapping a selfie in the glass reflection. 10 seconds later, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked it. There she was on her feed. "Every company faces problems. We address them." Reggie saw it too. "Unreal," he muttered. I didn't reply. I just lifted the box, grabbed Charlie's stroller from the staff room, and pushed out into daylight. It was noon, but it felt colder than any midnight we'd lived through. The next day brought its own slap. Lily showed up at Ma's apartment like a stray cat smelling leftovers. She knocked, bounced her foot, and plastered a smile on her face when I answered. "Hey," she said, voice sugary. "I'm back from Tulum. Got a job lined up in Texas. Thought I'd visit our son." Ma stepped right between us like she'd been waiting behind the door the whole time. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. "Don't you take one step without a lawyer present?" Lily didn't even blink. "Relax, Stephanie. I just want to see him." "Then you get a lawyer," Ma said. "Or you get off my porch." Lily's smile slipped, but only for a second. "You two always think the worst of me." "You give us plenty of reasons," I said. She sniffed, real dramatic, then walked off down the hall without another word. That night, things got worse. Charlie spiked a fever so fast it scared me. One minute he was babbling at his toy truck, The next, he was burning hot and crying against my shoulder. We didn't have insurance yet, another thing HR had to process later. So I sat on Ma's old couch with a bowl of cold water, dipping cloths and laying them on his forehead, whispering that he was okay, even though my heart was trying to climb out of my chest. Ma hovered nearby, pacing with the cordless phone. "If he hits 103 again, we're going to urgent care," she said. I nodded. My hands shook every time I wrung out another washcloth. Every minute felt like 5. The clock on the wall ticked so loud it sounded like hammer strikes. By dawn, his fever finally dropped, and he sagged against me, sweaty and worn out, but breathing easy. I held him until my arms went numb. Later that morning, I dug into my wallet and pulled out $40 for Mrs. Taylor. I called her and told her I had a payment. She answered with her usual gravel voice. "About time. You settling the rest soon?" "Yes." "You'd better," she said. Then her tone shifted a bit. "Where are you working now?" I hung up without answering. I didn't owe her any more than money. By the next night, I'd slept 1 hour. Felt like 10 minutes. My brain buzzed like a broken light fixture. I kept replaying Polina's fake tears, Oscar's face, the brake fluid pooling under his car. And I knew something had to crack soon, one way or another. Earlier that same Friday morning, hours before Lily showed up, everything cracked open. I was sitting at Ma's table with cold coffee and no appetite when Reggie texted me. "Got something. Come in." I left Charlie with Ma, bundled up tight, and headed straight to Allen Development. Didn't clock in, didn't check with HR, just went straight to the control room. Reggie and Kelly were already in the back office, huddled around the playback monitor. The lights were low. The air was tense. Reggie hit play and leaned back. It was 2:12 in the morning, Thursday. A figure in a hoodie crouched beside Oscar's SUV, shadowed by the concrete pillar. Could have been anyone, until the hem of the hoodie flared up as the person turned. Red scuffed heels, flashing under the garage light, clear under the garage light. Kelly let out a breath through her nose. "That's her." Reggie scrubbed the timeline. Badge data shows Polina clocked in at 2:06. She didn't clock out until 2:19. Said she left her phone in the elevator, but there's no elevator swipe. Kelly stood up straight. That puts her in the garage with access at the exact time. Nothing else to say. She didn't wait for discussion. She picked up her phone, stepped into the hallway, and made one call. 10 minutes later, she was back. "Auditors coming. Outside firm. Guy I trust. We're opening up vendor logs and matching orders." I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out my old warehouse notebook, and flipped it to a folded Polaroid I'd tucked in the back weeks earlier. Polina in the break room, holding a coffee, one arm draped over a chair. The light hit her wrist just right. A gold bracelet. Thick. Flat edge. Cyrillic letters etched along the band. I handed it to Kelly. She squinted at it, then locked eyes with me. "That's the same bracelet." I nodded. "I remember. She wore it every night she worked late." Kelly didn't say thank you. She just nodded like a final puzzle piece had landed. The outside auditor showed up fast. A guy in a tan coat with a beat-up briefcase and the kind of tired face that had seen 100 vendor scams. By 5:30 in the evening, he'd traced 3 separate vendor lines, all linked to a shell company buried under an old Uvarov LLC. Names changed slightly, addresses off by a digit, but same source. Kelly rubbed her temples. "All of it ran through Oscar's power of attorney?" "Every single check," the auditor said. "Without his second signature, nothing stalled." At 9:30 in the evening, the cops walked in with a warrant. I watched from the back hallway near IT as they asked for Polina. She was in the 4th floor conference room, mid-conversation with Oscar. She barely protested. Just stood up, smoothed her skirt, and said, "What's this about?" She was gone by 9:32. By 10:05 in the evening, Kelly came to find me. Her face was stone. "She flipped," she said. Already? She gave up everything. Said Vlad planned it all. She was just the middle. She admitted to the brake line, the vendor fraud, the power of attorney trick, even the car service logs. I leaned against the wall, exhausted and vindicated, and still too wired to sit. Oscar came down from the boardroom an hour later with a copy of the investigator's report in his hand. He didn't speak, just handed it to Kelly like it weighed 50 pounds. Then he looked at me and said, "I messed up. That's all." But it was written all over his face. After he walked off, Kelly went into her office and pulled the buyout list off the bulletin board. She laid it on the desk and circled a name halfway down. 2337 Girard Avenue, my old address. "Why is this here?" I asked. "Board-level clearance project," she said. "Started 6 months ago, pushed by Vlad. He claimed the block was marked for demolition due to safety hazards. I signed off because no one flagged it. We didn't know what we were clearing for." She looked at me. "I'm sorry." The words hit different, not soft, just honest. That night I went home and studied for the custodial lead certification. 8 hours of material, none of it easy. My eyes burned. My brain felt like it was running on fumes. Saturday, I took the test, gritted through every section, finished in just under the time limit, and scored a 92. Kelly met me in the empty conference room where I'd taken it and handed me a manila envelope. Inside was a signed acting lead assignment letter. It would take effect Monday when HR processed my reinstatement. "You earned this," she said. "Make a draft checklist for nights. Bring it in with you." "I will." She nodded and walked off. No smile, no handshake, just trust. That night back at Moz, Lily texted me. A heart, then a link. I tapped it open. GoFundMe. Title: Help a mom reunite with her son. I left it on red. Sunday morning, someone from facilities said Vlad tried to leave town, headed toward Chicago. Got stopped by a state trooper outside Eau Claire. Warrant hit just in time. That's what I heard. Monday came with tension in the air. HR sent me a formal reinstatement letter just before noon, signed and stamped. Kelly slid it across the table herself. Said nothing, just tapped the line where I needed to initial. I did. An hour later, the whole building gathered in the East Wing conference hall for a town hall meeting. Most of them didn't know what to expect. The vibe was weird. Part tension, part curiosity, part, is this about the Polina thing? Oscar stepped up to the mic in his usual suit. No tie this time. He cleared his throat and looked like he'd slept about 10 minutes all weekend. "I have something I need to say," he began, voice tight. "A few things, actually." The whole place quieted. He looked around the room, then down at a paper in his hands. Didn't read it. Just folded it and put it back in his pocket. "I suspended someone last week. Someone who had already gone out of his way to protect this company and my family," he said. "And I did it because I panicked, because I listened to the wrong people." I was standing near the back wall, arms crossed, heart thudding. Oscar looked straight at me. "Daniel, I was wrong. You were right. And I'm sorry." The room held its breath for a beat. Then the clapping started. Slow, then picked up. A few people even nodding while they did it. It wasn't wild or over the top. It was the kind of applause you give when a mistake finally gets fixed. Oscar kept going. "He's reinstated with full back pay, effective immediately. We've adjusted his hourly rate, retroactive from his probation end date. That's the least we can do." I nodded once, didn't smile, just let it land. Then Kelly took the mic. Her tone was different, calmer, sharper. "We've launched a full audit of vendor relations. Effective today, we're implementing new internal controls. No single party can authorize vendor onboarding without third-party review. We're also enforcing a zero-tolerance policy on what I'll call romance for access." She let that hang for a second. "No names, but the principle should be clear." It was. No one had to say Polina's name. Everyone already knew. After the meeting, Reggie caught me by the service elevator and showed me a photo on his phone. Security still. Camera frame from the garage. Hoodie. Ankle boots. And under the hem, those same red scuffed heels, like a fingerprint that walked. That seals it, he said. No one's arguing now. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. It was Mrs. Taylor. Daniel, this is, your old landlord. Something's been bothering me. Last fall, this gentleman came by the property. Said he was with some company. Allen something. Offered me $300 under the table to clear units faster. I took it. I'm not proud of that. But if the cops ask, I'll tell them the truth. I just thought you should know. I called her back and kept it short. Tell the detectives. That's your shot at making it right. She was quiet for a second, then said, Okay, I will. Ma started working nights part-time the same week. Kelly pulled some strings and got her assigned to floors in the second tower. She didn't ask for special treatment, just the hours. Said the job gave her peace. Also, she liked the gossip. That Wednesday night, around 2:40 in the morning, I was making rounds when the boiler hiccuped. First I smelled it, faint, metallic. Then a carbon monoxide alarm chirped in one of the side offices. I ran fast. Found 2 guys crashed out on the floor of the third-floor conference room, mid-project, empty energy drink cans around them. I pulled them both up and shoved the door open to clear the air. Second chirp hit 10 seconds later. Reggie and facilities responded quick. No one got hurt. When Kelly showed up to review the report, she handed me a new key ring. Protector suits you, she said. That's all. But it hit deeper than a raise. Oscar came by my station later that morning. No big speech, just offered a handshake. I see you now, he said. For real. I took his hand and gave one nod. That night, back at Ma's, Charlie fell asleep on my chest mid-snack, breathing deep, fingers curled into my collar like he didn't want to let go. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks, holding my son, knowing the ground under us had finally stopped shifting. I'm 56 now, telling you about when I was 26 and winter tried to bury me alive. That Christmas Eve, I was broke, bitter, and 1 inch from getting crushed by a guy who'd end up as my boss, then my brother-in-law. That's how fast everything can flip when you hold the line long enough. Kelly was the one who really saw me. Not Oscar, not HR, not even Reggie. Her. I was just a night porter with a busted heart and a kid in a thrift store snowsuit. And she was this iron-spined executive with no patience for excuses. She didn't pity me. She pointed to a rung on a ladder and said, "Climb." Called it the price of help. So I climbed. I paid off Mrs. Taylor in 5 months, check by check. She kept her building longer than anyone expected, until the new city council killed Vlad's demo plan. Never apologized. I didn't need her to. Lily bounced between Texas and Mexico for a while. Couple texts, a few missed calls, a surprise GoFundMe or 2. Eventually she faded out. I don't hate her. I just don't answer anymore. Vlad got what he earned. Federal charges, wire fraud, corporate conspiracy. Polina flipped and took her own time in a white-collar facility out in Colorado. She'll be out before she's 40, last I heard. Oscar eventually learned that charm isn't a resume. But he learned. And he changed. He watches closer now. He asks twice when it matters. Sometimes 3 times. As for me, I stayed. I stayed in that building, on those nights, walking those halls. I cleaned the scuffs people ignored. I filled the soap nobody thanked me for. I rewrote checklists, trained new hires, watched every screw on the elevator panels like someone might yank them loose. Because they do. I took care of what I was handed. Floors. Keys. A little boy who watched everything I did and copied it, right down to how I folded my sleeves and checked the windows before bed. Kelly and I got together slow. Nothing movie-like. Just coffee in the break room at 5:50 a.m. when the lights were low and the city hadn't blinked awake yet. A laugh or two in hallways no one walked at that hour. Her hand on my shoulder when Charlie coughed through the night and wouldn't sleep unless someone was pacing. No declarations, just presence, just showing up. We got married by the river a few years later. Cool September afternoon, gray sky, but no rain. Oscar cried like a faucet, said he was glad he didn't run me over. I told him that would have been a very different wedding. Charlie wore a little gray suit and sneakers, held both our hands, and asked if we were a team now. We told him we'd been a team for a while. That hit me deep. Still does. If you're wondering what I learned through all of it, I'll tell you straight. Don't wait for fairness. It doesn't come on time, and half the time it doesn't come at all. You do the next right thing anyway, loud enough that people can't ignore it. The world will try to shrink you down, put a label on you, call you maintenance like it's an insult. Be maintenance anyway. Fix what you can reach, protect who's yours, keep receipts. And when the moment comes, some dark garage before dawn, cold enough to freeze your teeth, you step in front of the hood and make the world stop. Because somebody has to. Before you head out, let me throw something at you. If life ever backed you into a corner the way it backed me into that garage, would you step up and fight for what's right? Or would you walk away to protect yourself? If you've got the hype feature, tap it now to boost this story so more people can hear it. And please subscribe and hit like. It helps us more than you know. Drop a comment too, even a quick, good story, or share what you would have done in my place.